my computer could just explode, Ron. That would be trouble.
I think that'll be good. That'll be great going into the holidays. I think just a big old explosion.
There
See,
you go.
Amanda would love that. Amanda, she said it's about time for the explosion.
The
Thrilled.
the the
Thrilled.
explosion is National Signing Day today, and I'm curious. We talked to you. Be sure and hit that like button because Ron joins us every Wednesday, and we love that. You had talked about in your recruitment that Tennessee didn't show you some love at one point. You kind of had to be re-recruited. So all that's good recruiting stories, but I'm just curious what it was like for you as a young man, either 17 or 18 years old, to actually sit down there and sign that piece of paper and know that your college was paid for. Because we've lost some of that in
Yeah.
this day and age of NIL, but that's a special moment. And most of these young men that we're talking about today are not $8 million men. They are, they're guys that are getting their school paid for, and that's cool to me.
Yeah, I think, man, that's the luster of it all with social media and things of that nature. You kind of lost a little bit of that. I will say I was looking forward to the hoopla and everything because the year before, while I was at Procon, I got to see John Henderson signing day, and his was a little bit different. And I didn't quite understand, like, man, what's so different about John, and why mine ain't gonna be like that? You know what I'm saying? And I didn't. That's kind of that lets you know, like, the bubble, and without social media and reading Street and Smiths and everything, magazines waiting on that to come out, not really knowing who I was around. Like, I knew John was the truth, but I didn't know he was like that. You know, USA Today and everybody coming. I thought that was natural. I thought that's like this is what's supposed to happen on signing day. So when I got up to Oak Hill, man, they actually, and us being as prestigious as we were at the time, being 31-0, national championship, um, they pulled us out of class. Me, Steve Blake, and Travis Watson, signing in Virginia, Maryland, and Tennessee. Sat us at a table, couple balloons. Miss Smith, Coach Smith's wife, said 1, 2, 3, took a picture. We acted like we was signing, and they sent us right back to class. So I was like, "Hey, man, this ain't really what I saw. I envisioned going down. You know what I'm
I had
saying?
I had in school wrestling meets that lasted longer than that.
It was so quick. I was like, "Oh, this ain't it, man." But I will say though, man, it's nothing like it, knowing that you're about to get school paid for, and I think sometimes it gets overshadowed because of everything around you moving so fast. You kind of take it for granted, like what just this moment really means. You know what I'm saying? So it was big time, man. It was big time.
Hit that like button if you haven't subscribed yet. You need to do it. We have Ron on each and every Wednesday, and it's brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock, a personal injury attorney in the Chattanooga area that can go toe to toe with the strongest, best attorneys that the insurance companies can hire. Zach England of Best and Brock. Zach's got your back. Ron, what was it like when you told your mom that it was, or your parents or your family, that school was going to be paid for? That wasn't necessarily signing day, but still, that had to be cool.
Man, they already knew. Like
Yeah.
a pair, like this was it coming into it. I remember my ninth or 10th grade year. That was the conversation. Hey, man, I hope you're getting a scholarship because we can't pay for no college. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the funny thing about that, man, is I grew up on a college campus. You know what I'm saying? Up there at Tennessee State, sneaking into Vanderbilt. So I was comfortable in college settings. My mom was coaching, so I would travel with her all the time. Like, it seemed like the norm, so it was automatically like, okay, you go to college, that's what happens after high school. How I'm getting there, I have no earthly idea, but and then the talent kind of took over. But it was always understood that, man, you get a scholarship. You've been gifted with an athletic ability, and shoot, you use that as a vehicle to get all the way up there. And then you look around and you kind of, this is my thing, what I tell kids now, you got to surround yourself with people with like minds, because if you don't, then it's easy to be like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go to auto mechanic school. Ain't nothing wrong with none of that. But if you're around athletes all the time that are pushing, like, I'm around guys that were going to school, and I was always the baby of the group, with a class ahead of me with Big John Henderson, Maurice Fitzgerald, and all those guys going to Tennessee. So that fit right into the way I grew up, looking at colleges. And then it was like, man, my boys left. Oh, they going to college. That's the next step. It ain't no get out of high school, get a GED, go to school. I mean, go get a job or none of that. It was this is what you're supposed to do. You go to college, and then whatever you got going on in college, you figure out what the next step is. But you're going to school, so it was real cool, man, and it was always understood.
Good stuff. I know Calhoun wants to turn it to basketball, and that's what we want to do. Want to
I thought
ask?
that's what we were talking about.
We're getting right to basketball. Last thing I was going to ask you one more thing about signing day, and that is just your thoughts. Should Tennessee bring in a transfer portal quarterback, or are you confident in Joe Milton the third, Esquire the second, captain?
Man, I look at it like this. You have to show this is a delicate situation because if you go and snatch one now, what are you showing as far as loyalty to what you have to Joe Milton, and what kind of conversation goes forth when you got guys like Nico coming in or somebody else you're recruiting for the 24 class, you know what I'm saying? And they come in, they talk to Joe Milton because your best sales pitch is your players. So if it were to go right now before going into the bowl game, you go sign a quarterback. It's like I understand the competition for sure, but I've waited my spot. I waited my time. You know what I'm saying? I've done it the right way. You know what I mean? If you talk about a model citizen of the program, it would be Joe Milton, regardless of what he does on the field. You know what I'm saying? So if you had to sacrifice a game or a month of practice to kind of massage that situation, I think you do that. When the bowl games are over, if you reassess things and go into the spring, like you got so many different windows when you can go get one now, and these guys are coming in kind of game ready and system ready because you would go get somebody to fit your system. Apparently, of course, but that's the thing. You gotta pay a little bit of loyalty forward in order to get what you need to receive on the back end.
That's great insight. Great insight. Calhoun?
Um, yeah, I am going to ask a basketball question, but sorry, I just had to point out because we talked about Ron's recruitment. That was an era like, oh my gosh, of some great Tennessee recruits because you had Tony Harris in 97, Vincent Yarborough in 98, you and Marcus Hazlip in 99. Yeah. Man, that was a loaded time.
It was crazy. It was crazy, man.
Talking Tennessee basketball a little bit, it seems like the mood is a little odd for me. It seems like there is a lot more negativity about losing by 5 points to a top 10 team on the road, which there's really nothing to be that upset about. And I mean, if you listen to Rick Barnes talk in the postgame, you would have thought that Tennessee lost at home to Appalachian State.
yeah, you would have. And I think people, they forget, man, because sometimes you don't watch what's going on the West Coast. Arizona, to me, is the most complete team in college outside of Houston. Gonzaga has problems with athletic teams, so I don't want to throw them in there. But Houston, man, is one that comes to mind that's a problem. Arkansas, before getting hurt, outside of them just having young guys, but if you just put potential on the floor, they were a complete team. But I think they're selling Arizona short. That's what I think. I mean, this team is really, really good. Like, how many times do you go and you have the two? Well, you might as well say 7-footers, even though the 4-man Tabulas, or however you say his name, the lefty at the 4 is, he might as well be 7 foot. But you got two guys you can put on the block, slow the game down, pound it inside, or you got guys like Kerr that can push the pace and get guys involved. Like, it's a different type of game, man. So to be able to adapt to that and go out there in Arizona in a hot box like we talked about last week, that atmosphere was crazy. First and foremost, like it's equivalent to what you want TBA to be all the time, and and I mean, it's a smaller gym, but that's what you want it to be. So I think people are selling it short, man. They went out there and competed. I'm okay with it because if you take the officiating away, and some of those calls that I think, and I'm not blaming on the refs by no means. I think that's an easy scapegoat every time, officials and coaches. But I think they went out there and competed. I think they didn't take they didn't take the moment and run with it. You had plenty of opportunities in that game where Arizona left the door open for you to run away with it, where you do something dumb or give a couple of turnovers. But that's all part of growing. And it's early in the season. This is what you want. I promise you this will pay off later on.
That's exactly where I was going. And if you look at pre-conference schedule, because it's about to get rolling after Austin P tonight. So if you look at pre-conference schedule, is there any goal that you think Rick Barnes wanted to achieve with his roster that maybe he fell slightly short of heading into the conference schedule?
Yeah, I think test the young guys. I think that was one. Really be able to put Meshack out there to see how he really does in competition, especially on the road or neutral site games. I think he got to find that out. Phillips was able to grow really quickly. I think the only thing missing was being able to see the continuity with Josiah and being able to move him around in different spots and play him along with Tyreek Key and kind of see how they mesh, because I think they are two cogs, man, that's really going to be important for this team moving forward, regardless of if Phillips is playing. If you got Key, Josiah, Vescovy, and Zakai on the floor, and you plug in a Euro, say, Olivier, whoever it is at the 5, that's a tough group. That's a tough group when you got guys that can knock down shots. So I don't think he got to tinker with that as much. Outside of that, though, I think he got everything he was looking for as far as styles of play, different type of defenses that he was going to throw at people and see how they react, being able to fight out of holes of games, and dig themselves back into a game, be able to play with a lead, and then finish it off going down the stretch. So I think he got everything that he was looking for outside of being able to see different units if he were able to go small. I think other than that, what it looks like with a big lineup. He had to play with a big lineup, so that's okay. That's pretty much it on that one.
Breaking here real quick, Shamarad Umarov has signed. His papers are in. The 6'6", 337-pounder from Alpharetta, Georgia. Caleb?
Yeah, he was already enrolled, so I'm still waiting on the day someone's enrolled and takes part in practices and then flips.
It leaves. I don't think we're too far away from that day, man. We may see that soon from somebody.
Yeah. Ron, I wanted to talk a little bit about Barnes, some of his criticisms of Ross Plastic over the weekend. And I understand you don't like the technicals, and I understand, but I always feel like that's kind of something that comes with every basketball team needs kind of an enforcer. You know this, you were a bit of enforcer at times. Yeah. And I think of I was a Grizzly fan, and Zach Randolph was an enforcer for Marc Gasol a lot of times. And Draymond Green is that for Golden State. I feel like you need that on a basketball team, even if there's some technicals that come with it.
Yeah, you got to have that. I just think the point I think Coach Barnes is trying to make, it's okay to have that and okay to do that when it affects, if it affects your impact individually, it's okay, because we can pull you out. You know what I'm saying? And put somebody else in there, and we're gonna be okay. And we need that. We can use you as a spark. He stepped into the realm where he can no longer be a spark. So when you start to affect the team with what you got going on, then it becomes a problem. You know what I'm saying? Because if you take him and you put him in that game and he is able to play throughout the game without being put in and out in that Arizona game, it makes a big difference. You need a guy like him down there banging with Big Barlow and guys like that, so, and he was having a good game. So I think I had to go through that my freshman and sophomore year, and you got to understand what your role is on the team. I can go out there and talk trash and be a spark, and because I know without me playing long stretches, the team is going to be okay. You know what I'm saying? But when I stepped into going in my junior year, before tearing my ACL, it was a bit different. I had to pick my spots. My senior year was totally different. I had to conserve a little bit more energy and pick my spots where I was talking, so I couldn't hurt us as a team by me doing the antics that I would do as a freshman and sophomore, knowing if I come out, all hell may break loose. Like Hooker's computer might really blow up right now because what we did in the past. But it's something that you got to be able to walk a fine line with, and knowing that. So when I saw it happen, when he turned, he really didn't say anything. And that's the funny part of it. So that is his defense going to the bench. Coach, I didn't say anything. But Euros, you jumped in the man's face, man, and stared him that like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Especially on the road. You may get away with it at home. And that's another thing. Like, I started to know after my sophomore year, going into the season, John Clockerty pulled me aside and told me how you gotta deal with referees and the way you're perceived and if you're showing them up, especially on the road. So that was a tidbit that I never really told anyone, but he always told me before the games, and I had a lot of respect for him and his son, man, to kind of how to massage those situations with referees. And that's why I started coming out, shaking the coach's hand. So when you notice my junior year, and I started shaking the coach's hands and stuff before jump balls, now it's looked at as, oh man, dude, respect the game. So anything he's doing out here, it's just all passion. It's passionate. Like, dude, man, this man really wants to win and everything. When I'm shaking his hand, it's like, hey, man, this ain't no sign of respect after the game, regardless how I go shake their hand again. So they'll see, and that's all perceived one way, you know what I mean, through their lens. And that's what you got to be able to do. So Euros needs somebody that has walked that walk to be able to talk to him about that. Maybe got to reach out. Like, my number's open.
That is great. That is fantastic stuff. From the year-to-year thing, did you have to figure that out on your own, or is that a conversation with coaches, or how you would, how I want antics isn't the right word, Ron, but
Yeah.
how in your face you would be? Did you discuss that year to year, or is that something you figured out?
No, I just kind of figured it out on my own. I think
I thought so.
Yeah, my freshman year, I was rambunctious anyway. Like, I didn't care what anybody said. Like, you got to imagine, man, we had a team that was 9 to 10 deep, and everybody was gonna play. So my minutes were gonna be limited anyway. It was regardless, 12 to 15 minutes a game. And I'm going out there knowing that. So what's gonna happen? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I can foul out. We're gonna be okay. We're that talented. Well, we're gonna be okay. Sophomore year was the same. And then going in my junior year when everybody left, that's when you had to kind of be like, oh, you know what I mean? So I will say one thing, man. I got to give Vincent Yarbrough and Dale Baker credit. They always talk, especially after Isaiah Victor left. Isaiah was my wing man. He took me under his wing. And then after he left, Dale Baker would always be able to say something to me. Coach Grant would be able to say something to me as well at the end of the bench. It's only a couple people I was listening to, you know what I'm saying? But those were guys, man. I remember my sophomore to junior year, me and Vince and Dale went out to Oakland to work out. And, man, we used to stay up late nights, work out 3 times a day, stay up late nights talking about the things that we needed to do that junior year. So that kind of shifted my mindset. And I went automatically from just having fun in college to, man, we were switching on to like a pro mentality. You know what I'm saying? So it was crazy how that junior year felt and kind of fell, you know what I'm saying, with Slip being ineligible early, then me having a stress fracture, then all us finally getting together 3 or 4 games, to me having the ACL. Like it was wild how that season went, man. But going into the season, mentally and physically, we were sharper than we could ever be.
Ron's appearance every Wednesday brought to you by Zach England of Best and Brock, the best personal injury attorney in the Chattanooga area. He can go toe-to-toe with those attorneys that the insurance companies hires, and man, he'll get you your money, and that's important. Zach England of Best and Brock. Ron, have a fantastic day, sir. And if you notice that you might be quoted in a column here later today on offthehooksports.com, that it was because the great insight about the Milton thing. You really you don't want to lose the team chemistry that you have by bringing in a guy, especially that. I just thought that was great stuff. So as always, buddy, we appreciate your time. Have a blessed Wednesday. And if I don't talk to you, I'll probably end up texting you because I text a lot of people on Christmas morning. But have a very Merry Christmas, and we're blessed to have you a part of this program.
All good. Appreciate you guys. Happy holidays, all the listeners and everything, man. Y'all enjoy.